A forgotten human, the market streets of Valen Prime smelled of metal and ash. Huge towers of glassy stone pierced the dark sky, glowing with green veins of energy. Alien voices echoed through the trading lanes, sharp clicks, guttural growls, long harmonic notes that no human throat could copy. And in the middle of it all walked Daniel Reeve. He looked tired, his beard scruffy, his jacket patched too many times to count. To the Valen merchants, he was just another broken species, member one of the scattered humans who had drifted across the stars after Earth's fall. The galaxy believed humanity had been crushed, lost, an irrelevant dot, and Daniel let them believe it. He had learned early that silence was survival. If the galaxy thought humans were gone, they would stop looking. But every time he walked past the Valen war banners, towering cloths of red and gold, painted with the sigil of their empire, something in his chest burned. The galaxy underestimated them, and Daniel knew the truth. Humanity was not finished, not even close. A sudden crash snapped him from his thoughts. Across the market square, 2 armored Valen guards were forcing down a young merchant. Her skin shimmered with faint blue, light scales rippling with distress. She was Talai, a silent trader he'd spoken with a few times. Illegal trade, one guard barked. Confiscation. Resistance is treason. Talai protested in her flowing, melodic tongue, but Daniel didn't need a translation. They were taking everything she had, and no one else moved to stop it. Daniel cursed under his breath. He had promised himself he wouldn't interfere anymore. Drawing attention was dangerous. The Valen watched everything, and humans were tolerated only as long as they stayed small. But Talai's wide, terrified eyes met his. Damn it. He stepped forward. She's not smuggling, she's selling scrap. The guards turned. Their helmets gleamed like molten glass, eyes glowing red. You dare interfere, human? The word dripped like poison. Human. Weak. Forgotten. Daniel kept his hands visible, calm. Check the crates. It's wiring, tools, plating, hardly war material. One guard sneered. And why defend her? Are you her bonded mate? Or is this just a filthy human trick? Daniel's jaw tightened. He wanted to punch that smirk right off the alien's face. But that would get him killed. So he swallowed the anger, the same way he had 1,000 times before. Because it's right, he said simply. The guards laughed. The sound was harsh, like knives scraping metal. Pathetic. Stand aside. They shoved Talai down harder. Her wares clattered across the ground. Daniel's fists clenched. He told himself again, don't do it. And then the guard raised his shock dash baton. Something snapped. Daniel moved faster than they expected. He caught the baton arm, twisted, and slammed the alien into the wall. The other guard lunged, but Daniel swung the baton in a perfect arc, cracking the alien across the chest plate. Sparks flew. The Valen staggered. Gasps rippled through the marketplace. Humans weren't supposed to fight back. The guards roared, weapons charging, but Daniel had already grabbed Talai's arm. Run! They sprinted down the side alleys, crates and neon lights flashing past. Sirens began to wail, echoing off the glass towers. By the time they ducked into a dark maintenance tunnel, Daniel was panting hard. He pressed his back against the wall, heart pounding like a drum. Talai looked at him with shock and gratitude. Her voice trembled. You risked everything? Daniel wiped sweat from his brow. Couldn't just watch. Her eyes narrowed. You're not like the others. You still fight. Daniel gave a bitter smile. Yeah, and now the Valen will hunt us both. Far above, the sirens rose louder. Search drones swarmed, and for the first time in years, Daniel realized his quiet cover life was gone. Asterisk whispers of the armada. Daniel stared at her. What did you just say? Talai's blue-scaled face glimmered faintly in the dark. Her voice was low, urgent. You are not just a drifter. I've heard the stories. Humans, scattered, broken yet, some speak of a fleet hidden beyond the rim. A war fleet. Daniel's blood ran cold. No one was supposed to know. Humanity's last armada was more than myth. It was their secret survival. Carriers, dreadnoughts, hidden in a dead system beyond the galactic charts. If the Valen ever found it, careful, Daniel hissed. That's dangerous talk. Talai leaned closer. Dangerous, yes. But I saw something once, when I was younger. A massive ship-human design slipping past the outer routes. Larger than anything in Valen records. I never told anyone. Until now. Daniel's mind raced. How much did she know? How much had she seen? And why tell him? Before he could ask, the tunnel lit up with red beams. Search drones whirred at the entrance, mechanical voices barking coordinates. Daniel cursed. We move. Now. They fled deeper underground, twisting through maintenance shafts and half-flooded corridors. Talai guided him with surprising confidence. She knew the Undercity well. Finally, they reached a hollow chamber filled with old starship wreckage. Rusted hulls stacked like bones. Here, they caught their breath. Talai's voice shook. They will kill you for what you did, and me for helping. Daniel nodded grimly. Yeah, welcome to being human. She tilted her head. But humans, you endure. You adapt. That is why the galaxy fears your hidden fleet. Daniel met her gaze. The galaxy doesn't believe it exists. Her eyes glimmered. Does it? He hesitated. For years, he had. Lived with silence as armor. But something in her look, trust, desperation, pulled the truth closer to the surface. Yes, he whispered. It exists. Her breath caught. Then, you are not alone. Before Daniel could reply, the wreckage. Walls shuddered. Explosions echoed from above. The Valen weren't just searching. They were leveling the Undercity. Daniel's chest tightened. They mean to bury us alive. Metal beams cracked. Dust rained down. And Talai grabbed his hand. Then we must reach the stars. We must warn your people. The ceiling began to collapse. The warlord's bargain. The chamber shook as the crimson-armored figure stepped through the collapsing wreckage. Dust and sparks swirled around him, but he moved with calm. Certainty, like a predator entering its den. The Valen guards fell back, lowering their weapons in respect. Daniel's heart stopped. He recognized the sigil etched into the warlord's chestplate too. Burning suns crossing over a broken world. High, Warlord Korath, the butcher of Arkan Reach, the conqueror whose fleets had burned 3 colonies to ash. And he was standing here. In the Undercity, looking directly at him, Daniel Reeve. Korath's voice rumbled through the chamber, amplified by his helmet. The human ghost. Daniel's breath caught. How? How could this monster know his name? Talai stiffened beside him, whispering. He knows you. Daniel forced his voice steady. You've got the wrong man. Korath chuckled, a low grinding sound. Do not insult me. We have hunted your kind across 100 systems. You think we believe humanity is gone? No. You scattered. You hid. And you, he pointed a massive gauntlet at Daniel, are one of the last threads that will lead me to the truth. The ceiling cracked again. Debris fell, smashing against the wrecks. Drones hovered in tight formation. Red optics blazing. Daniel and Talai were surrounded. Why bother? Daniel spat. You've already won. Earth is gone. Humanity scattered. Korath tilted his head, almost amused. And yet you still fight. Still protect. That spark, that stubborn will. It means something is left. His eyes flared. I intend to find it. Talai spoke suddenly, voice trembling. If you kill him, you will never find what you seek. Daniel turned sharply. Talai, but she pressed on, her tone sharper now, almost defiant. Humans hide their strength. If you want answers, you need him alive. Koreth's gaze shifted to her. For a long, tense moment, silence filled the chamber. Then the warlord laughed. Interesting. A silent defending prey. He gestured, and the guards stepped forward. Shackles clamped around Daniel's wrists, humming with energy. Cold metal bit into his skin. Talai lunged forward. Don't hurt him. Koreth's towering form loomed over her. Not yet. If he is what I believe, then he will lead me to the hidden armada. And when he does, his voice dropped to a growl. I will burn it from the stars. Daniel struggled against the bindings. You'll never find it. Koreth leaned closer, his voice a deadly whisper. You already told me it exists. The fire in your eyes betrayed you. Daniel froze. Damn it, he had slipped. Even silence had not saved him. Take them. Both, Koreth ordered. We will pry the truth from them. The guards dragged Daniel and Talai toward the exit as the chamber collapsed fully behind them. They were thrown into a transport cage, the walls pulsing with containment fields. Outside, the cityscape of Valen Prime blurred past as the warlords. Cruiser carried them skyward. Talai sat opposite Daniel, her face pale, scales dimmed with fear. I'm sorry, she whispered. I only tried to protect you. Daniel clenched his fists. You gave him more reason to keep us alive. That's something. But inside, fury burned. Every instinct screamed at him. You've led him closer to the armada. Korath would tear apart systems to find it. And if Daniel broke, if he slipped even once more, humanity's last chance would die. Hours later, they were dragged into a vast chamber aboard Koreth's flagship. The room was lined with banners of conquest, trophies from fallen worlds. A broken Terran helmet hung among them. Daniel's gut twisted at the sight. Koreth stood at the center, his armor gleaming under the crimson lights. Do you know why I spared you? The warlord asked, pacing slowly. Daniel glared. Because you enjoy games. Games? Koreth's voice thundered. No, human. I admire strength. Your people fought harder than most. Even in defeat, you left scars on the galaxy. I want to know if there is more to you than ashes. He gestured, and the floor lit up. A holographic star map filled the chamber, dozens of systems marked, some with human ruins, others blank. Koreth's voice dropped. I believe your hidden fleet waits beyond the rim, perhaps in one of these dead systems. Perhaps in a place erased from our records. Tell me where. Daniel forced a smirk. You think I'd just give that away? The warlord's gauntlet twitched. Not easily, but you will, he signaled. Guards brought forward a device, a sphere of black metal, bristling with spines. Daniel's blood chilled. An extractor, a torture machine that ripped thoughts straight from the mind. Koreth stepped closer. I will offer you a choice. Tell me the truth willingly, and you and your silent companion live. Resist, and the extractor will peel apart your mind until there is nothing left. Talai gasped, her voice trembling. No, don't do this. Daniel's jaw tightened. He had been trained to resist interrogations back in the old days. But the extractor was different. No human could withstand it forever. He glanced at Talai. Her wide, terrified eyes begged him not to break. Then he looked back at Koreth. You want the armada? He said slowly. You'll never reach it. Koreth's voice was ice. We will see. The extractor hummed to life, shadows twisting across the chamber. And Daniel braced himself for hell. Shadows of the armada, the flagship's walls trembled. as alarms blared across the warlord's chamber. Red lights pulsed, sirens screaming in alien tones. Unscheduled fleet entry detected. A guard barked, his voice panicked. Not Valen. Not registered. Korath's. Eyes narrowed. Show me. The star map shifted, displaying orbit above Valen Prime. Dozens of ships shimmered into view sleek. Obsidian craft shaped like curved blades. Their hulls reflected no light, cloaked in strange energy fields. Daniel's breath caught. He recognized the design, not human. Not Valen, the Zaith Dominion, a third power. Predators who thrived on scavenging wars, striking weakened empires, tearing apart civilizations already bleeding. They had once raided the outskirts of Earth's colonies during the final years of humanity's fall. And now they were here. Impossible, Korath growled. The Zaith would not dare challenge me on my own world. But the Dominion ships did not hesitate. Their weapons flared like shards of burning ice, striking the Valen orbital defenses. Towers of light exploded above the city. Daniel felt a twisted spark of hope. Chaos, the perfect chance. Korath roared orders. All batteries to defense. Crush them. The guards rushed out. Only a pair remained with Daniel and Tylai. Weapons raised, the extractor's spine still hummed above Daniel's head, inches away. But now the guards' focus wavered, their eyes flicking to the battle updates streaming on their visors. Daniel's mind raced. He needed a way out fast. He glanced at Tylai. Her eyes darted to the extractor's console, and suddenly he understood. With a swift lunge, Daniel slammed his boot into the extractor stand, toppling it sideways. The machine shrieked, spines clashing against the floor in a burst of sparks. The guards whirled. Tylai moved faster. She leapt at the console, her slender fingers dancing over the controls with desperate precision. The extractor's containment field fizzled. Daniel twisted free of the half-broken shackles and tackled the nearest guard. They crashed to the floor, fists and claws swinging. Pain flared across his ribs as the alien struck, but Daniel rammed his elbow into the guard's throat, then wrenched the weapon from his hand. The second guard aimed his rifle. Tylai slammed, her hand on the console. A surge of static burst across the room. The guard's weapon fizzled and died. Daniel fired the stolen rifle. The alien dropped. Breathing hard, Daniel turned to Tylai. How did you know time? She snapped, pointing. At the star map. Look. The display flickered with updated readings. Among the Dominion attack signatures was a coded pulse feint hidden deep within the signals. Daniel's chest tightened. He knew that code. It was human. Not the armada, but a smaller scouting vessel. A whisper from the shadows, testing the waters. The armada's eyes. Tylai's gaze darted to him. It's your people, isn't it? Daniel swallowed hard. A recon ship. They're watching. Korath stormed back into the chamber, his armor scorched with fresh battle marks. What have you done? Daniel raised the rifle, but the warlord barely flinched. He radiated raw menace, energy shields humming across his armor. You think the Zaith will save you? Korath snarled. They are scavengers, jackals. Once I crush them, I will finish with you. Daniel smirked despite the danger. Funny thing about jackals. Sometimes they find bones you thought you buried. The warlord's gaze sharpened. He turned to the console and froze at the human-coded signal flickering across the map. His voice dropped into a growl. So, it is true. Daniel cursed silently. The recon ship's signal had betrayed them. Korath's gauntlet slammed the console, sending shards flying. Signal the fleet. Full pursuit pattern. If the humans dare watch from the shadows, we will drag them into the light. The room shook again as explosions rippled through the flagship. The Zaith pressed their assault, and Daniel saw their only chance. He grabbed Talai's hand. "We're getting out of here." Korath turned, eyes blazing. "You cannot run from me, human." Daniel didn't reply. He fired at the ceiling conduits, blasting them open. Steam and sparks poured down, cloaking the chamber. Through the haze, he and Talai sprinted for the exit. The corridors were chaos. Valen soldiers clashed with Dominion boarders, plasma bolts scorching the walls. Smoke filled the air, alarms shrieking. In every direction Daniel and Talai darted through the mess, slipping past distracted soldiers, using the confusion to mask their escape. Talai pointed ahead. "Hangar bay." They burst into a massive chamber lined with dropships. The bay shook as a Dominion fighter smashed into the shielding, half crashing through before exploding. Fire ripped across the deck. Daniel's eyes scanned for something usable. Most ships were locked or damaged. Then he spotted it, a small skimmer craft, emergency marked. "Go!" he shouted. They sprinted across the burning bay. Blaster fire rained down as Valen soldiers spotted them. Daniel returned fire with the stolen rifle, each shot barely holding them back. Talai leapt into the skimmer cockpit, fingers flying over. "The controls. It's locked," Daniel cursed. He dove under the console, yanking out a panel. Wires sparked. His hands moved on instinct, the old training kicking in. Human engineering wasn't so different from Valen systems once you stripped. The layers. Come on, come on." He muttered. The soldiers closed in. Plasma bolts seared the hull. Then the skimmer roared to life. "Go!" Daniel yelled, diving into the cockpit as Talai slammed the throttle. The skimmer blasted out of the hangar, weaving through wreckage and fire into the open void. The sight outside stole Daniel's breath. Above Valen Prime, fleets clashed in a storm of fire and steel. Dominion blade ships sliced through the blockade, their energy lances tearing apart Valen frigates. The planet's defense towers burned like shattered candles. And among it all, just beyond sensor range, a faint shimmer lingered, the human recon craft. Cloaked but still detectable if you knew the right signals. Talai's eyes widened. "They're waiting for you." Daniel's throat tightened. His people. After so long, but if the recon ship was here, then the armada couldn't be far behind. He turned grim. "We can't lead Korath to them. If he tracks us, he'll find the fleet." Talai glanced at him, fear mixing with determination. "Then we must lose him in the shadows." Behind them, the warlord's flagship burst from the hangar bay, engines flaring like suns. Korath's voice boomed across the comms. "Run, human. I will follow you to the ends of the galaxy." The skimmer shook as weapons fire lanced past. Daniel's grip tightened on the controls. "Then let's see how well you know the shadows." He dove the skimmer toward the debris fields, weaving through burning wreckage, dragging the warlord into the storm. Asterisk the silent fleet. The skimmer jolted violently as the tractor beam locked them in place. Blue light shimmered across the cockpit, glass pulling them toward the faint outline of the cloaked recon craft. Talai gripped the seat. "They've got us?" Daniel's stomach twisted. Relief and dread tangled in his chest. Relief because it was his people. Dread because Korath could see them 2 behind. The warlord's flagship roared through the debris field, scattering Dominion raiders like insects. Its cannons unleashed hell, tearing wreckage apart, closing the gap. The human voice echoed. Again, sharper now. "Identify yourself." "This is Recon Vessel Horizon. State your code." Daniel's throat tightened. He hadn't spoken with his own kind in years, but the words were burned into him. Reeve Daniel, Terran Defense, 7th Fleet, Engineer Corps, Code Echo 74 Delta. There was silence for a beat. Then the comms crackled with disbelief. "By the stars. It's real. He's real." "Commander, We've got him. The recon ship shimmered fully into sight now, its hull black and angular, bristling with hidden weapons. It wasn't large, but every line of its design screamed human hands built this. Daniel felt a lump in his throat. His people had survived, but there was no time to savor it. Asterisk. The warlord's flagship loomed behind, weapons charging. On the comms, a different voice cut in hard, commanding. This is Commander Reyes of the Horizon. Hold tight, Reeve. We're pulling you aboard. Daniel's eyes flicked to Talai. She stared at the ship in awe. It's real humans still fight. He swallowed. Yeah, and now we need to make sure they don't die today. The skimmer was hauled into the Horizon's hangar bay just as a plasma barrage tore past. Metal screamed as the small ship clanged against the deck. Daniel and Talai stumbled out, coughing from the smoke. Armed humans in black combat suits surrounded them. Weapons raised. Daniel froze. The sight of other humans, their faces, their uniforms, their wary eyes, it was overwhelming. One soldier's helmet hissed open, revealing a scarred woman with iron-gray hair. Commander Reyes. Her sharp eyes studied him. Then to Daniel's. Shock, she gave a small nod. Reeve, you're a long way from Earth. Daniel swallowed. Earth's gone, but I'm here. Reyes's gaze flicked to Talai. And you brought company. Talai stiffened, clutching her satchel. Daniel stepped forward quickly. She saved my life. She knows what's coming. She's with me. Reyes hesitated, then gave a curt nod. Fine, but make no mistake, we're exposed now. That warlord saw us. He'll call half the Valen fleet down on this system. Daniel's voice hardened. Then we need to call the armada. The hangar went dead silent. Soldiers exchanged quick, startled glances. Reyes's eyes narrowed. You know where it is? Daniel hesitated. Every instinct screamed to keep it buried, but they didn't have a choice anymore. Korath had seen too much. The secret was already bleeding into the galaxy. Yes, Daniel said at last. And if we don't bring them in now, the Valen will crush us before we can blink. Reyes studied him for a long, heavy moment. Then she tapped her comm. Signal command. Priority Omega. The armada wakes. The Horizon dove hard through. The debris field, engines flaring. The warlord's flagship pursued relentlessly, weapons scorching the void around them. Dominion raiders scattered, unwilling to face either side. Daniel stood in the command deck beside Reyes, watching the tactical display. Talai hovered nearby, eyes darting across the alien symbols she struggled to decipher. Reyes barked orders. Course locked. Secure the data burst. A signal pulsed out from the Horizon, encrypted in a way only the armada could read. It vanished into deep space, invisible to enemy sensors. Talai leaned close to Daniel. Where will they come from? Daniel's voice was low, reverent. From the dark, from where the galaxy forgot to look. Reyes gave him a sideways glance. You've been out of the loop for years, Rave, but you'll see soon enough. Minutes felt like hours as the Horizon twisted through running battles. The warlord's flagship pressed closer, launching swarms of interceptors. The ship shook violently as blasts hammered their shields. Sparks flew across the deck. We can't outrun him much longer, a pilot warned. Reyes's jaw tightened. Hold formation. The armada is coming. Daniel's fists clenched. He remembered the old drills, the fleet exercises, the pride of Terran steel. But would they still answer? Or had too much time passed? Then suddenly, the comms lit up with a low, resonant tone. A signal like a heartbeat, growing louder. The tactical map flared with new contacts. 1, 2, then dozens. Ships. Massive. Angular, unmistakably human ships, dropping from hidden slipspace corridors at the system's edge. Carriers, Dreadnoughts, cruisers, their hulls gleamed with Earth's last banners, the blue and gold crest of the Terran Defense Armada. Gasped. By the stars? Daniel's chest swelled. His throat burned with emotion. They're here, he whispered. The Armada. Ekums burst with a voice deep and steady. This is Admiral Kovacs, Terran Defense Armada. All units, engage. Humanity rises. The human fleet surged forward, engines igniting like suns. Korath's flagship faltered as the scale of the Armada became clear. His booming voice echoed across open channels. Furious. So it is true. Humanity hid its fangs. Daniel leaned closer to the display, watching the warlord's ship adjust course. He's not retreating. He's going straight for the command carrier. Rees cursed. He wants to decapitate us before we form the line. Daniel's engineer's mind raced. The Armada had numbers, but the Valen flagship was a monster of war. Its shields and guns could crack even a dreadnought if left unchecked. We need to cripple him before he gets close. Daniel said. Reyes gave him a sharp look. And how? Do you suggest we do that? We've barely got a recon skimmer to our name. Daniel's eyes lit with the old fire. Then we don't hit him with power. We hit him with brains. I know how that ship breathes. I've been crawling through Valen systems for years. Their flagships run plasma vents across their midline. If we can overload them, the whole core will stall. Reyes frowned. That's a suicide run. Daniel's grin was grim. Only if we fail. Talai stepped forward suddenly. Her voice was firm. Then we won't fail. I know their systems too. Let me help him. Reyes looked between them, then exhaled sharply. Fine. Take a strike shuttle. If you can even slow him, the Armada will tear him apart. Daniel felt the weight of it. One chance. He glanced at Talai. She met his eyes, unwavering. Together? She said. He nodded. Together. Minutes later, Daniel and Talai strapped into a small strike shuttle. Engines flared as the hangar bay opened, revealing the raging battle beyond. The Armada clashed with the Valen fleet in a storm of fire. Human dreadnoughts fired rail batteries that lit the void like lightning. Carriers launched waves of fighters, weaving between Valen interceptors in swarms of steel and flame. And in the center, Korath's flagship cut through the chaos, like a blade, its crimson hull blazing. Daniel gripped the controls. Let's make some history. The shuttle blasted forward, plunging straight into the heart of war god Asterisk, the first strike. The void exploded with fire. From hyperspace, the second Valen fleet dropped like a hammer rows upon rows of crimson warships, blotting out the stars. Twice. The Armada's number. Shields shimmering, weapons already glowing with murderous light. Admiral Kovacs' steady voice cracked through the comms. All units, brace. The Valen brought reserves. We hold the line or humanity dies here. Daniel's shuttle bucked as the shockwave from a carrier's destruction rippled through the battlefield. He gritted his teeth, eyes locked on the monstrous flagship ahead. Korath's vessel carved through the fight, its crimson cannons tearing apart human cruisers with each volley. Beside him, Talai's hands flew across the co-pilot controls, rerouting power, keeping their small craft alive amid the storm. Her voice was sharp, resolute. The plasma vents you spoke of, they're along the ventral ridge, but it's guarded, swarms of interceptors. Asterisk Daniel nodded grimly. We punch through, overload the vents, and pray it's enough to stall him. If we don't, the Armada falls, Talai finished. Their eyes met for a heartbeat. No more words were needed. Daniel gunned the throttle. The shuttle streaked low, skimming the wreckage of burning ships, weaving through tracer fire. Human fighters swarmed past, dogfighting Valen interceptors in brilliant flashes of plasma and steel. The coms were alive with chaos pilots screaming, carriers calling for cover, destroyers breaking apart under relentless fire. And above it all, Korath's voice boomed on open channels, taunting. Humanity hides no longer, and now humanity will end. Daniel's jaw tightened. Not today. The flagship loomed larger and larger, its hull a mountain of crimson metal. The plasma vents glowed faintly, heat shimmering along the ridges like a dragon's breath. But just as they lined up their approach, a swarm of Valen interceptors broke from formation, diving straight at them. "Here they come!" Tylai shouted. Asterisk. The shuttle rocked as plasma bolts seared past. Daniel yanked the controls hard, barrel rolling through the chaos. The interceptors pressed closer, hungry for the kill. "Hold them steady," Tylai cried. She flipped open a side panel and gripped the manual turret controls. Twin cannons spat fire, shredding one interceptor into a ball of flame. Daniel dove the shuttle between two wrecks, narrowly avoiding collision. The interceptors followed, relentless. "Tylai, we can't." "Shake them," she gritted her teeth. "Then we burn with them." She overcharged the turret, unleashing a blast that ripped through 3 enemy fighters at once, but the turret sparked violently, frying circuits. "Guns are fried," she shouted. Daniel's hands flew over the controls, sweat stinging his. Eyes. The flagship's plasma vents glowed ahead, their target so close. Asterisk, and then the shuttle shuddered violently as a bolt struck their wing. Warning klaxons wailed. "We're hit," Tylai cried. Daniel's vision blurred from the impact, pain lancing through his side as shrapnel tore across his ribs. His breath hitched, but he forced himself upright. "We're not stopping. Strap in." He slammed the throttle to maximum. The shuttle screamed forward, trailing smoke, alarms blaring. The vents filled their viewport, now massive glowing ridges stretching across the warship's underbelly. Heat shimmered so intensely it distorted space itself. Asterisk. Daniel barked. "Prepare the overload charges." Tylai tore open the panel between their seats, pulling out a battered case. Inside, crude but powerful explosives blinked with red indicators, human engineering at its most desperate. She armed them with trembling hands. "Ready." Daniel lined the shuttle up. Plasma turrets on the flagship swiveled toward them, dozens locking on. He whispered under his breath, almost a prayer. "For Earth, for us all." Then he dove straight at the vents. Bolts of plasma hammered the shuttle. Metal peeled away. Systems screamed. Tylai clung to the explosives, her scales scorched by sparks. Daniel's vision swam from blood loss, but his hands were steady. The shuttle slammed against the flagship's hull, skidding along molten plating. Alarms howled. Fire erupted in the cabin. Daniel unstrapped. "Now, plant them." Through the smoke and chaos, he and Tylai forced the hatch open. The void yawned outside, searing heat from the vents licking their suits. Gravity boots clamped them to the hull as they staggered into the inferno. Tylai screamed over coms. "The heat our suits won't last long." "Then we move fast." Daniel roared. They sprinted along the ridge, every step a battle against the burning wind. Behind them, the shuttle exploded, torn apart by turret fire. The blast rocked them forward. Daniel slammed the first charge onto a glowing vent seam. It latched with magnetic clamps, beeping steady. "Charge 1 set." Tylai wrestled the second into place, her claws blistering under the heat. "Charge 2 armed." Their suits' temperature warnings screened red. Systems failing. Daniel staggered toward the last vent, vision tunneling. His side burned where shrapnel had cut deep. He almost collapsed, but Tylai grabbed his arm, pulling him upright. "Not yet." She shouted. Together, they slammed the final charge in place. Daniel's voice rasped through the comms. Detonate. Talai's hand hovered over the remote. Her eyes locked with his through the suit visors. If we trigger now, we won't survive. Daniel's lips twisted in a bloodied grin. If we don't, no one survives. Her hand shook. Then she pressed the trigger. The charges detonated. A blinding flash ripped across the flagship's underbelly. Plasma vents ruptured, spewing molten energy in wild torrents. The entire warship shuddered violently, crimson shields collapsing in. A cascade of sparks. On the Armada's comms, cheers erupted. Ray's voice cut through, fierce and alive. The flagship's shields are down. Hit it with everything you've got. Human dreadnoughts unleashed their full fury. Rail cannons, torpedoes, energy lances all slammed into the crippled warship. Explosions ripped through its hull. Korath's enraged roar echoed across channels. No, I will not fall to scavengers and ghosts. But even he could not stop the storm. The flagship's core detonated, a sunburst tearing it apart, in a fireball that lit the void brighter than any star. On the hull, Daniel and Talai were flung. Free by the shockwave, tumbling helplessly into the black, Daniel's vision blurred. His oxygen alarm screamed. His body drifted, limp, bleeding into the void. Through the haze, he saw Talai's form spinning nearby, reaching toward him, her eyes wide with desperate determination. Then the darkness closed in. Asterisk. The galaxy trembles silence. The void was vast, endless, swallowing all light save for the burning wreckage of the Valen fleet. Hulks of crimson metal drifted lifeless, fires guttering into nothing, and in that silence, two figures floated tetherless, broken, fragile against the immensity of war. Daniel's body drifted weightless, consciousness hovering at the edge of nothing. Pain radiated in waves. His suit systems flashed red oxygen critical, pressure failing, vitals collapsing. Somewhere, faint and distant, voices cut through static. We've got 2 suits. One's not registering. Get them in now. He wanted to answer, to call out, but his lungs refused. His vision flickered in and out, catching only fragments of firelit debris and the faint glint of Talai's form tumbling close by. Her clawed hand stretched weakly toward him, desperation in every movement. Then hands, mechanical and firm, gripped him. A sensation of being pulled, dragged, light flared. The blackness closed in for the last time, aboard the medical bay. Of the carrier Resolute Asterisk, Daniel woke to the steady beeping of monitors and the hiss of oxygen. His body ached everywhere, ribs wrapped, sides stitched, burns patched. For a moment, he thought he was still dreaming until a shadow moved at his bedside. Talai. She sat hunched, scales dulled by exhaustion, but eyes burning bright. Her hand rested lightly on his, as though she feared he'd vanish if she let go. When she realized his eyes were open, relief washed over her face. "You stubborn, reckless human," she whispered, voice thick. "You almost left me alone among the stars." Daniel tried to smile, though every muscle protested. His voice came out hoarse, ragged. "Wouldn't dare." She let out a shaky laugh, half sob, half joy, and pressed her forehead gently against his hand. The door hissed open. Admiral Kovacs entered, her usual steel softened just a fraction. Behind her, Captain Reyes lingered with a grin that tried to mask red, swollen eyes. "You did it," Kovacs said simply. "The flagship is gone. The Valen fleet is broken. Without Korath, their chain of command collapsed. The Armada held." Reyes stepped closer, his grin finally winning. "You should have seen it, Dan. The whole fleet watched that beast explode. The galaxy thought we were hiding in the dirt. Instead, we burned a legend to ash." Daniel coughed a laugh, pain shooting through his chest. "So, we won?" Kovac's smile was razor-thin, tired. We survived. For today. That's enough. Weeks. Later, the Galactic Council Hall, the chamber, was carved from living stone, towering spires stretching above an assembly of species from 100 worlds. For centuries, humans had no place here. Now, the hall overflowed with whispers as representatives craned their necks to glimpse the arrivals. The human delegation entered not as guests, but as victors. Admiral Kovacs led the way, her uniform crisp despite healing wounds. Daniel walked. Beside her, stiff but alive, scars peeking from his collar. Behind them strode Talai, not as a translator or liaison, but as an equal representative of her people, survivor of both betrayal and hope. The council chamber buzzed louder. Some aliens watched with awe. Others with fear. At the center, the High Speaker rose, his multiple eyes blinking in disbelief. Humanity, you have revealed yourselves. The armada you fielded was beyond anything our intelligence imagined. The Valen are broken. You changed the balance of the galaxy overnight. Murmurs rippled. Accusations, praise, dread. Kovac's voice cut through, sharp as steel. We revealed only what necessity forced. For centuries, we hid because the galaxy left us no choice. You called us weak. You ignored us. You left us to burn while predators circled. So we built in silence. Daniel stepped forward, his voice carrying, raw but resolute. Understand this. Humanity didn't strike first. But we will strike last, if ever threatened again. We are not conquerors. We are not your slaves. We are survivors. And now, you know what survivors can become. The hall fell silent. Even the High Speaker bowed his head. After the council, on the observation deck, views stretched across the void stars. Uncountable, endless possibilities. Daniel stood alone, hand pressed to the glass. He could still hear the screams, still see the wreckage spinning in the dark. Victory carried its own weight. Soft footsteps approached. Talai joined him, her reflection shimmering beside his. She stood quietly for a long time, eyes fixed on the same horizon. Finally, she spoke. Do you think they'll ever accept you? Daniel exhaled slowly. Maybe not. Maybe they'll always see us as a threat. But maybe, just maybe, some will see us as something more. She tilted her head. And what are we, Daniel? He looked at her, a tired smile tugging at his lips. Hope for both our peoples. Her eyes softened, and she rested her hand lightly over his. Then let's carry it together. They stood in silence, watching the stars. Epilogue transmission across the galaxy, not long after. A signal pulsed through the networks of 100 worlds. A recording impossible to suppress, impossible to ignore. It showed the fall of Korith's flagship, the moment the vents exploded. The flash of human firepower tearing down a legend. And over the footage, a single line scrolled in dozens of languages. The galaxy underestimated us. Now it will never forget us.